So is this the main place, the main hall for the prison?
This is the jail within the jail.
Okay.
When you had rule violations inside your prison, this is where people were brought to be housed for a specific amount of time. It also housed those that couldn't be housed with the other population just because of their behavior.
So you're saying this is the worst of the worst?
That's it.
Okay. So how many people could this fit?
I think the most that we've ever had in here is 80 at one time. It's a very difficult environment to control. It's very dangerous in here for the officers that work. So we ended up, because of court action, having actually to tear up the upper cells and make 2 cells into 1 because of the long-term housing, yes.
So could you do, like, when you say the worst of the worst, what kind of people are we talking about here?
You're talking, again, it started out with rule violations and what have you, but you also could have people in here that have actually injured other inmates inside this institution, to include stabbing them to death. They would be housed in here.
But like, say if you were like serial murder or something, would you instantly go here, or would you still be put in a normal area first?
You'd go general population.
Okay, so this is for the people who really were disobeying the order of the jail. Gotcha.
Correct.
Huh. Okay.
I've seen it in here where the smoke would be as high as the screens in here would be. From the ceiling down, there would be that much smoke in here from fires and so forth that they would set.
They would set fires in here?
Yes.
Wow.
Bed linens, toilet paper, whatever they could burn, they'd have it all on fire.
So that explains the soot on the walls.
Yeah. And then, of course, I've seen them have hoses in here and take hoses down a cell block, and halfway down it, I've seen a guy reach through there with a homemade shank and cut the hose right in two. Seen it done.
Really?
So you can see how dangerous it was even for the officers to be able to try to put out the fires.
Do you mind if we take a look and go down this hall and see some of the cells?
No problem.
Okay, cool. What do you guys think?
Tiny. Yeah, really tiny. Just like
That's cozy.
And these would house how many people? Oh,
One
just
person.
one? Oh, okay.
Now, in the regular housing unit, which is below, the cells are the same size. They're 5 by 7, 35 square feet. But because these people were so dangerous, this is the reason that there was kept one cell. We housed as many as 2 cells in the lower units. You also notice the screens on the doors. Those were for protection of the officer, so that we didn't get big pieces of feces thrown on us. Also, you didn't get stabbed with a shank through the door. If they'd happened to get a hold of a mop handle or something, because they were responsible for cleaning in here, we've had them take the mop handles and keep them or hoard them, and then try to run an officer through when he come up to the door.
How many fatalities would you say happened in this area?
While I worked here, I know of 7 people that were murdered inside this facility here.
prisoners or guards?
Pardon me?
Prisoners?
Prisoners. There were, in the '86 riot, we actually ended up with 2 gangs in here. One of them was the Avenger motorcycle gang, and the other one is the Aryan Brotherhood. So those 2 factions didn't get along, and it was a power struggle. So in that power struggle is when the violence really got bad inside of here. Now, you had personal grudges that had nothing to do with those 2 organizations, and somebody could get stabbed in here. But that was a lot of the violence that we had was between those 2 organizations.
Were there any people killed during the riots?
Yes, we had lost 3 inmates during the '86 riot. I was the senior negotiator for that. There were actually 3 of us negotiating on the prison side, and they had 2 inmates that negotiated from the prisoner side.
How did the inmates die? Like
They were stabbed to death
by
inside.
other inmates?
By other inmates, yes.
So this is when the prisoners took control of the prison.
Yes, they had about 80% of our prison under their control.
Wow.
Within a matter of 15 minutes, they had 80% of our institution. They did it on our own radio commands. It was New Year's Day, and we had a call off. Several officers had called off, so we were short-staffed. They knew we were going to be. And then when our chief officer came out of the control center to the dining hall, he had the main set of keys on him. And we have a radio call in here called a 1033, which means officer needs assistance. The inmates were waiting in the lower halls, which is PNR and New Wall, beside the officer with the radio. So the minute the captain yelled for a 1033 in a dining hall, they captured those guys right then, and the radios.
Wow.
We actually traded bread for batteries. We had the bread and they needed batteries for the radios, and it was a good communication link for us, so we actually traded bread in here during that 53 hours to get new batteries into their hands. Wow. We needed bread to make sandwiches with.
Oh wait, they had the bread.
They had the bread, and we had the batteries. Did I say that the wrong way, maybe?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they had the bread. So, and we had a group of population that was just north of here of about 70 radio men that weren't involved in the riot at all. And we needed to feed them, so we needed bread.
Wow. Jeez. That must have been fun.
Third day on the job inside this institution, on the other side, the last cell down, I cut down a boy who had hung himself. It was my third day coming to work, and I had to come into the wheel, and they said they need you in North Hall. And we had a gentleman who had hung himself in here.
Could you show us that cell?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's go to the other side.
Yeah. Can we go this way?
I don't think we can get through. Let me take a quick.
Yeah, I was just over there.
Were you?
Yeah. Let's see. Some of it there.
If you look on some of these cell floors, you'll see where they sharpen the shanks, where they cut some bed metal out. This little design right here, this was people that still couldn't live with that group of people. So we built them special cells. In fact, the last guy that was killed in here by another inmate was killed in this cell.
When was that?
It had been in 90, let's see, we closed in 95, so then it had been in 94. That individual was killed.
This way. Cameras together.
Yeah.
So this, 21?
21.
So you said on the third day on the job, you were asked to cut a guy down. How old was he?
Eddie was probably in his late 20s, early 30s.
Really? Do you remember what he was sentenced for?
No, I don't. He had done it with bed sheets. He had actually tied the doors shut, and then tied the bed sheet himself to the bed sheet. Was on his knees on the bunk, and then just leaned off of his bunk. Talk about an individual wanting to die. That was the way to, because it's hard to do. You can't even stand up in there and try to hang yourself. But he got on his knees and then leaned off the end of the bunk with a sheet tied around his neck.
He was pretty determined.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Very mixed up individual, and you can imagine the length of time it would have taken to suffocate like that. And to keep your hands off of it, he actually tied his hands up as best he could after he tied the door shut.
Wow.
Was he here long?
Yes, Eddie had been locked up